Thanks for joining us on West Country Women, the new podcast with Alexis Bowater. Celebrating everybody's business and showcasing women across the West Country region. If you're listening, please follow and rate us 5 stars. Or if you're watching, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Produced and supported by Fresh Air Studios.
Grab a seat. All is good. So, what I need to remind you, it's live. They're recording us and everything.
Okay.
What are you wearing?
Wow. I think the whole of
This is
Plymouth,
amazing.
I think the whole of Plymouth knows I am in town. Because
You look great. You just look great.
No,
Can you
I
just
said-
quickly stand up so I can see the trousers?
all from Brazil.
Oh, you're amazing. You're amazing. So talk me through why you're wearing this.
Well, when I saw your email about it's going to be filming and record, I'm like, oh no, I need to bring it. And when I went to Brazil, which, as you know, wasn't long ago, I was there for the whole of April. My sister, who is also my daughter's godmother, was so pleased with the award, so proud. She covered me in presents, and she gave me this set of jewelries.
Brilliant.
Which she said, please do wear this for your next award or for your next moment. I'm like, oh my God, what a confidence in me. That's so, seriously, so beautiful. So I thought, what a better moment to bring my family with me and to, something that represents something so special to them and to me. So I came with the jewelry. The clothes is because it's bright. I'm happy. It's sunshine. Oh my God. I adore the sunshine. So I'm like, if it's not now, when? Isn't it?
It's
So
brilliant.
It's now or never.
Absolutely brilliant. And you've got the Brazil badge.
Oh yeah, Brazil badge that I bought in Brazil.
Uh-huh.
And I have the Brazil map
Yes.
here as well, hanging
Got it.
on my necklace.
What's going on here?
So representing, that's the set. And here is the bracelet I bought in the Christ Redeemer in Rio de Janeiro.
Perfect.
So my yellow watch that my mom gave me, so matches my yellow trousers. So basically Plymouth knows I'm around.
Yeah. I do. Hannah, you look absolutely amazing. But what I like is even down to your fingertips.
Oh yeah, green from the flag. Yes, absolutely. As I said, the moment you say you'll be filming, I'm like, no, I cannot just turn up like this. I need
Well,
to.
I'm going to have to say your sister's going to be extremely proud.
Good.
So, Anna, take me back to that night of the West Country Women Awards and your win. Talk me through what you remember, because we remember loads.
Oh my God, yeah. What a special night. For me and for my family. Really, really special. I remember going to the wrong salon, to the wrong place. I remember that and not seeing anybody. I'm like, we're in the wrong hotel. We're in the wrong place. Oh my God. But anyway, the gentleman explained it was in the ground. So we went back to the ground floor and then found everybody. So it was more relaxing. I remember sitting down and my kids, Mommy, are you going to be upset if you don't win? And I told them, no, just for us to be here. It's a great experience. It's a humbling situation. It's so beautiful. I'm so grateful to have gone that far. So I won't be sad. And they're like, okay, Mommy, my son, that's yours. Don't worry, Mommy. Like, I told him, calm down. Those women are amazing. We are all here, do a very important job, things that we believe in. So, but oh my God, when they were reading the golden envelope and saying that this woman, a woman that went far, they went the extra mile in what they do and named the finalists, seriously, my heart was racing. But when she said my name, I'm not joking. I think I left this world. I went elsewhere. My brain was like, what? But then I think I said that to you before. I think my husband, he screamed so loud, yes! That's what took me back to earth. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, that's me. And then that's you, always smiling, like, did it. It was very special, very special. And when you said, no, you can bring your family, and they came to the stage, I don't think I'll ever forget that moment. Them being there with me, and then obviously the speech thing was a bit of a thrown. I'm like, oh dear, you said no, we want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
So it was amazing.
So there are two things really that come out of that for me. First of all, what was it? Why was that so important? Why was it so different to be recognised in that way for you?
Well, I face several barriers. One, I'm not British in terms of I wasn't born here, so I do have an accent, so I have a different way of seeing the world, and it's not always seen as a good thing. And I'm a Black woman as well. I live in a rural area, which sometimes may not be so welcoming in seeing something or someone different, a different behavior, a different way of seeing the world. So the award was a certification that's okay, super okay to be me. So it was really special. It was like, you know what? That's fine. I can be me. I can be loud. I can laugh loud. I can make my jokes. I can see the world just different, and that's okay. Yeah. That's fine. So the award brought that confidence back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gave me more energy and motivation to go ahead because it's tough. Can be very tough.
Yeah. Well,
So
you said so in your speech. I mean, do you remember your speech? You gave an absolutely tub-thumping speech, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, well, my kids were there. You know, I have them in my mind a lot because I truly believe not only my children, but children are the future. We've got to nurture them. But the children who are not white, who are not British, who are not, heterosexual, whatever it is, they will face extra barriers, which can make their lives very hard. So when I think about my kids and the barriers they may face, that's what motivates me. You know, I don't want them to go through what I went through. I don't want them to be, as I said, I don't want my daughter to be sexualized because she's a Black girl. I don't want my son to be hostilized because he will be a Black man. You know what I mean? So having them there gave me the oomph. To say how I feel, because they are absolutely my motivation. And also the idea of seeing people experience what I experience, I don't want to see that. No. And that's why I try to work very hard to do not allow that to happen to anybody else if I can.
Yeah. Describe for me and people who are sort of new to this, what you do. You know, that last year we launched specifically, and for a good reason, the Diversity and Equality Award. But just talk me through what you do, what you achieve on a daily basis, and the reasons why, obviously, you won this.
Well, I mean, my professional background, I am social worker. I worked in adult social care. So just before the award, I moved to a secondment on the communities team, migration resettlement team, which has been a team created in Devon County Council to respond to the influx of people arriving in the county. So was right up my street, supporting people who are seeking asylum, take the anti-racism mentality and behavior to another level, to a wider level, to a strategic level. So I thought it was a great opportunity for me to grow as a person, as a profession. So I applied for that job. I secured that job. I was offered the job. So I've been doing that. But I had my own journey in my work where there was a lot of assumptions about me. So, for example, the fact that I'm Brazilian, there is an assumption that I can't speak English, or I may not be understandable, or people may not understand what I say, or my accent, whatever it is. And there's an assumption as well that my educational background might not be what's expected of UK. Those assumptions are made without even checking with me.
Right.
Anna, are you okay with that? Anna, how was your background? Whatever it is. So they just write me off from the word go. So I had my own journey, and I became an anti-racist mentor. So I used to mentor the Devon County Council CEO, the former one. And so that continued. So now I mentor a head of adult social care, and to support her in that important role of modeling behavior, modeling an anti-racist behavior. So on a day-to-day basis, what I do in terms of diversity and equality is I don't let any opportunity go. There is no such a thing like, oh, no, just leave it. Oh, no, not today. No, there is no such thing. I'll give you one simple example. I enrolled in a recruitment film, and the script said something that I don't think is accurate, which talks about how welcoming a particular region may be. And I said, welcome to whom? So we need to make that clear. So, but if you say that we're in a journey, we are building a fairer workspace, a fair organization, I film for you. But you say what's like little things, big things. I don't think we can. We are in a position of let it go. We've got to make a point. We have to speak up. We can't just think like, no, not now, tomorrow, because that can change people's lives. I know so many people who says, oh, that day people said that really scarred me for life. And I know how it does scar for life. So I tend to, and again, because of my experience, I think I'm hyper vigilant.
Yes. So
it's very rare. I'm not going to pick up what is underneath, which can be covert racism. So I try to challenge discrimination, racism, and oppression. Every opportunity I notice it. Because I think it's important to do so.
You spoke on the night about the biggest challenges that you face at the moment. Just talk me through those.
Well, I always say about how inhumane this journey can be, because there's an expectation that, you know what, if I hear from the person with lived experience, that will touch me and then I'll do something about it. I find that so desensitized. It's like I'm there to expose myself, to make myself vulnerable, to get something back from you, to get you to hear me, to get you to hopefully be touched by what I say, without any consideration how re-traumatizing that is, how painful that might be, and the completely lack of understanding that racism is generational. So I already bring with me a massive charge of that from great-grandmother, from grandmother, from mother, whatever. So I find that a particularly difficult one where people have the expectation, do you want me to do something about it? Tell me about what happened to you. I find that very exposing and unnecessarily cruel for me. So I find that's the worst. I think another challenge that I have to go very hard on my challenges, because just stating the obvious is not enough. Just talking about ethics, just talking about law is not enough. I have to bring research. I have to bring policy. I have to bring my feelings. It's tough. It's like I have to constantly overdo to get to the point I'm heard, I'm listened to, I'm taken seriously. So I find that quite physically and emotionally exhausting. So it's another challenge.
What you mentioned before, living in a rural area in Devon, which I can imagine is a massive challenge, actually, when we're talking about racism, especially in this part of the United Kingdom. Do you think it's worse here?
I don't think I can make that judgment because obviously I can mainly talk about my experience.
Yes.
And my experience is that there is a sense of isolation because I think some areas are not as exposed. I would never make a statement to say rural areas are racist, because that's not what I mean. What I mean is the lack of exposure, some of them. For example, when I want to cook my food, I have to travel 54 miles to get some of the ingredients. If I want to do something to my hair, I have to drive another 100 miles to get those things. That's in that sense creates a sense of isolation.
Yes.
A sense of, you know what? If I want something, I have to work 10 times harder to get it because of where I am. But then when I lived in other areas, I didn't have that problem, because those areas were much more diverse, much more exposed, was much easier. When I tell my mom some Brazilian dishes I cook here, she can't believe. Because I said, I do find ingredients in those diverse areas. So I find that that's the difference, really. And also in a rural area, because of the lack of exposition, you tend to be possibly the few ones. So you stand out for the wrong or the bad reasons, depends on how people perceive you. So that can put you in a very vulnerable position. Everyone knows who I am. Where I live.
Where you are.
For the right or for the wrong reasons, everyone knows who I am. You know what I mean? So that it brings another layer.
Very lucky.
Of exposition. So, but
What do you think needs to be done? What are your big challenges at the moment?
Well, I think one of the big challenges, as I said, is this idea of, no, we need to raise awareness. We are not ambitious enough when it comes to the other human being. We are very, I find, patronizing. Oh, come on. At least you allow them in the country. Really? That lack of ambition for the other human being, I find that difficult. You give a minimum and you complain if the person doesn't appreciate the minimum that you gave, and you expect them to be grateful. And nobody's saying that they're not grateful. But we shouldn't be putting limits to one's ambitions, one's potential, one's passion. Who are we to be doing that? And I find that very hard, of that idea that is quite oppressive, to be honest. And I don't like that. I think we should be way more ambition about the way we address racism, the way we address financial inequality, social inequality. So I think we should be way more ambitious, not like, oh yeah, no, at least we did that. No, but if you did that and it's not enough, people are not living their full potential, that's not good enough. We need to do more.
What would you like to see happen?
Well, as I said to you, I try to work like the little aunties, little work. And then, well, in terms of my community, I would like to see more proactiveness. I find the responses to racism, to inequality, to inequity really fragile, and usually blaming the person rather than the system. I find that inversion of values and ethics is very difficult. It's like when you turn a victim into the perpetrator. That's so unfair. And I find that a lot. And I think that is, again, lack of exposure, lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, lack of personal and professional responsibility and accountability. People it's much easier to put on the other than look within and take responsibility for their journey. I see that in schools, I see that in GP. I can give an example if you want.
Yes, please.
When I was going to Brazil, I went to do the checks of the vaccination, and the nurse, again, it's not about her, it's about the system. She came with a list of things I shouldn't do in Brazil. First thing, please do not drink any water from the tap. There. This is in front of my 2 children. Please, we don't recommend you to eat any food that's not cooked by you. I beg your pardon.
No, she didn't say this.
I'm like, I am going on holiday.
To Brazil.
There's one thing that I'm going to be doing is eating food cooked by others. For God's sake, I need a rest. So
somebody else's home.
And I tried to explain to her, did you realize that I'm Brazilian? I was born and bred there. We learn in school, the water in the tap isn't treated. So you don't drink from the tap, which is fine. But my point is the assumption that Brazil might be, I don't know, what the way it was delivered, the message was very ethnocentric. It's like anything outside UK is dangerous, is unsafe, there's no health and safety, there's no hygiene. And I find that very derogatory in front of my kids. So when you landed in São Paulo, when there was food in the streets, my kids, is that the food she said for us not to eat? So some parts of the trips I had to undo that damage done by that very fixed idea.
The unconscious bias, the unconscious,
and that, I see the world from my lens, the lens
Anna's just talking about...
that's fascinating. Hi, carry on.
She's just talking about just the simple fact of going to her doctor and saying, I'm going to Brazil with the kids to see my family. And the things that they were coming out with about what you couldn't do, which is just completely preposterous.
Not to eat anything that's not cooked by me on holiday.
Not to drink the water. When she's going to see her family.
Salad, because the salad will be washed in the tap where the water is not treated. So everything basically is wrong in Brazil. And
Hannah, thank you very much for coming along. Hannah's going to be with us until she has to go. Have you got a timer on your...
I've got my watch on.
It's fine. I'm really, really glad you've come along. We've got, how long have we got with you?
About 40 minutes.
Oh, well, that's fine. We can just absolutely riff on that. Have you guys met before?
Yes.
Well, we were there at the... that's right, that's right.
She was in the night and you brought your kids.
Oh, yeah.
Who did the algorithms, isn't it? I remember. Clever.
It was all great.
Got them working.
But both of you brought your children.
I think it's really important, actually.
It was really important. So we've got both of you. I mean, the winner of the Equality and Diversity, winner of Combating Violence Against Women and Girls. I've already asked Anna, and she's just given us a rundown of what it was like to win on the night. Just tell me what it was like for you.
Oh, it was amazing. And I do think I had my mum there as well. and I had 2 of my children. And I do think sometimes I don't know about you, Anna, but people don't always see some of the stuff behind the scenes. My family do, and I often say they carry the burden of the work that I do.
Definitely.
And it was nice for them to be able to celebrate a bit as well and be part of it. And I think they so rarely get to see any of the good stuff. They just see the late nights, the early starts, and so it was really special. The tears, the stress, and
and all that kind of stuff.
and it was just
you are
lovely.
smiling a lot of the time, but actually, what you're doing, I should imagine you're in a heap on a regular basis, aren't you?
Well, I hope not to. I mean, I love what I do. I feel very, very blessed to do something that I love, that feels, I believe makes a difference. I do. I genuinely am very grateful. But it's also, at times, it's not easy. It does. It asks a lot of you, and it does. That's the reality, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
well, do you know what? It'll come as no surprise to either of you to know that I'm really, really pleased to have both of you here in the studio. You know, this is a field that obviously I'm quite interested in. I'm very invested in, but it's not often we get the opportunity to talk to people who are literally at the front line of this stuff. Did it help you, and did it help you for us to have created these specific categories and to have raised awareness about what you do?
No, go first.
you go on then, Anna.
Go on. I think the award, I feel, catapulted me to a very influential position in my organization in many ways, and increase my own self-responsibility, because, and it's a good thing. I'm more careful with what I say. I'm very mindful of not losing me in this journey. I don't want to lose who I am, but be mindful that actually people may be hearing, people may want to hear. So I need to be very responsible in what I say, how I say. So I think the award gave me that visibility and credibility about what I say and what I advocate for. So it was very, not to mention this very special moment, but was, as I said, a certificate. I got a letter from top people in my organization congratulating me about the award. And I'm like, who are these people? And then people, oh, no, that's the director. That's so and so. I'm like, oh, okay. So it was very, very nice. The school, my son's school, asked him if I could go to the assembly.
Really?
Yeah. But I said no because of my son. He said, wait until I leave school. You can come.
Exactly.
They invite.
My teenagers are like that as well. They're
Exactly.
Like, never.
No.
Stay away, lady.
Yes. Yeah. But I said, but don't you think it's a good thing? Absolutely not. To wait until I leave school. So, but they brought that, that visibility, and I think is very important. And I'm trying to make the most of it. Yeah. To support people and support what I believe.
Yeah. And for you, Hannah, I mean, I know that you mentioned on the night that you just having that category made a difference.
And I think that I've definitely seen over the years, I've seen the changes. I remember sort of 10, 15 years ago, I'd be in spaces or meetings and I'd talk about women, and it wouldn't always people would be a bit like, don't need to have any special provisions or thinking about women differently. And I feel like we've come a long way. And so this feels almost part of that journey. And it's really important. I think for me, there's something about it helps the team to feel sort of validated in their work, and to, those that are on the front line that are working so hard, and it can sometimes feel so relentless to have that moment of actually what we're doing is recognised, and none of them do it for the recognition, but it doesn't stop that from being a special moment for them.
But so what you say raises a question for me, and this is something that and I've witnessed. I've been witness to this the question or the attitude, which is, hasn't it all been sorted out yet? And why are we still having this conversation? And I've heard it all before. Yeah. What do you both do? You must have heard that in your working lives when people just say, well, it's all sorted out, isn't it? And what is your response to that?
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to have a certain amount of sort of bounce back ability in this work, because they're a constant. So the sort of, why hasn't it all been sorted? It's not that much of a problem. Of course, my personal favourite, what about the men?
Oh, yeah.
And, I think that
Chip in any time, Anna.
we do, there's so many of those sort of attitudes still out there. But I think what I've seen over the last few years is, rather than sort of hearing that noise, I've had a much bigger and seen a much greater swelling of support and people standing up and saying, actually, this stuff matters to me. I've seen so many women standing up and saying, I want to see this change, I want to be part of it, and an increasing number of men that say, we want to play our part in overcoming violence against women and girls. And that's not just about men who say, I've got a daughter, I've got a wife. It's men saying, actually, we want a different society. We want to be part of a society that treats women fairly. So I don't notice that bit so much, but I am seeing those sort of more people that hopefully feel like they're part of it, which is long overdue.
Do you think people understand the severity of the situation that still exists?
I don't think so. In my case, I hear a lot about denial. When we had the race equality audit in 2022, people were like, oh my God, really? I didn't know that there is racism. I've never seen. You're not going to see. How are you going to see? You're white, you're British. How are you going to see? No, you need to ask who would be experienced that. And they will give you examples, morning, afternoon, and dinner if you want. They will give you many examples. So there is that. I think what happens with, unfortunately, horrible scenes of George Floyd's murder, I feel that open a door that's not going to be shut again.
No.
It's just the pace that we do that change. But that door, I can't see it. Especially, as I said, I've been to Brazil. I saw a different movement again. And I left Brazil when I was 25 years old. I've never seen massive posters of black models everywhere. There are black journalists, black presenters. I've never seen that before. So people proper speaking up, And I feel, as I said, that his death, rest in peace, open a door. And I'm very aware that he's not the only one, but he's the one that was showed around the world. And that's one that shocked many people. And that opened a channel, an avenue that I don't think there's a way back.
But why does it take a tragedy of that magnitude to change things?
Which it's similar to some of the things we've seen with women. It's the Sarah Everard, where suddenly people, and I totally agree, why does it take those moments?
Why does it need to go that far? Yeah. You want that to stop way before, than getting to the point that someone loses their life, a community gets traumatized. There's a lot of other traumas involved when you get to that point.
But then I think you're right, people are so blind to this stuff. And I remember seeing a report on the news a long time ago, and this woman was saying, and I think it was in London, a black woman raising her young son, and she said, at some point, I'm going to have to talk to my son about racism and prepare him for racism. And she had her, small child. And I just thought, wow, that still for her is a part of her reality. Absolutely. In the same way that for me, I've got a daughter, and I think, what conversations will I have to have with my daughter? And you sort of hope at some point you won't be having to have those conversations with your children. I won't with my daughter, but I don't feel it's in our lifetime. But it might be in your children's, my daughters, that we don't have to have those conversations.
Yeah. And when something like what happens to George Floyd and many others happen, or even the stabbings in London, which sometimes the media tends to focus on a particular group of people that tends to be black boys, which is not a reality. Could be them, but there are others as well. Anyway, I cannot only immerse in those news. I need to think carefully how I'm going to digest those news to my son, who is a black child, and who's going to be a black teenager, and he's going to be a black man. And how do I work on that? So I have to look after his mental health. I have to make sure he's safe. I have to, and it's tough because it's heartbreak. You don't want to see that happening to anybody, definitely not to children, and definitely not your children.
Yeah, it's how do you help him make sense of that news and the world that he's in.
Yeah, and keep himself safe, because it is a reality. But I find it's a very difficult balance. I watch a documentary where the father said that he dictates what the kid wears. So no hoodies. A black father, a black solo father with his teenage black boy. He said, no hoodies. Because I know if you wear hoodies, I think they were in London, in Bristol, the police will stop him. And there's a risk of him doing this. There's a risk of them taking him, etc., etc. And the boy say, I just want to wear my hoodie. Yeah. You know what I mean? So those things that may come across as little for others is a big deal for who is in the end of racism, of discrimination, and of oppression. Yeah. You know?
But I think people don't see it in the same way that after Sarah Everard, there were so many conversations where women were saying, well, I've spent my life walking home with my keys carried a certain way and all these things that we've done that have made our worlds much smaller without even...
That women do.
That women do.
Yeah.
That women
Not
do.
men.
And
Women
that
do.
Absolutely. And I've been surprised by how surprised men have been when you share some of this. And I think there's lots of parallels, aren't there, where people have had to modify so many of their behaviours and the way they live their life to stay safe.
This is West Country Women. Thank you for joining us so far. If you want to learn about the awards, our community directory, or this new podcast, please head to westcountrywomen.co.uk. We're on all the social media channels too, at the Women Awards. You can find, follow and like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube and LinkedIn. And don't forget to follow and rate us wherever you listen to your podcasts, and like and subscribe on YouTube.
Why do you think people don't understand the magnitude of the day-to-day? Do you think it's because they are frightened of it, or because we've normalised it, or because those stories and case studies just aren't there? I mean, I know that, you know, some of the women that you rescue, basically, have been through the most unimaginable torture at the hands of men who claim to love them. And yet, when you talk to people about the statistics of violence against women and girls, it's almost incomprehensible to them that the majority of women who are injured at the hands of men are either in so-called loving relationships or have been in loving relationships, or that these statistics are so high that, you know, you have 10 women a week committing suicide because of domestic violence or abuse. You've got 2 women a week being murdered by their partners or ex-partners. And those are statistics that are still shocking to the general population. How do we change that?
And you're right, the prevalence. I think of when at the International Women's Day a couple of years ago, where you invited women to stand up who had experienced some form of sexual violence or sexual, and we were all
every woman in the room
every woman in the room stood up. And I think the first part is about shining some light on this and actually having some of those conversations, because until we're prepared to see it, no one will be willing to do anything about it. So I think that's an important part. But I do think there's the bigger picture stuff in terms of I think we live in a society that is massively sexualised, sexist. When you look at the sort of the images that our young people are growing up with, when you look at the role models,
the lyrics of the songs.
Oh, it's terrible! It's terrible for young men and young women, and it's a bigger picture thing, isn't it? That we have to. I don't know.
We should stop the trends. Oh, now let's talk about women. Oh, now let's talk about black. We should stop the trend. There's no trend in being. I am a black Brazilian woman at all times. You are a woman at all times. So put your light in a particular time, and then you do a bit here and then forget, and let's move on to the next. Doesn't do anyone any good. You need to have sustainable, long-term strategies to keep people safe in the totality of their being. We are composed of layers of our identity, our gender, our ethnicity, our language. So we need to see people in that totality. You can't extract a woman and just consider a woman. That woman may be black. That woman may be disabled. That woman may be, you know what I mean? We need to respect people's totality and support them in their totality, not choosing categories of their being that we're going to focus on.
So what's next? I mean, how do we do that? How do we go about doing that?
What's your plan, Anna?
I'm in whatever it is.
Well, I think we need to remember that when you talk about others, Ubuntu says that I am because we are. We need each other. So nothing's going to change on your own. So we need to remember that personal responsibility as a human being with the other human being, even particularly more to those who are different from us, because those are the ones that we tend to ignore because we don't relate. You know, instead of, we should be using diversity in its totality of gender, of sexual orientation, of disability, of race, of ethnicity, and many others of social circumstances. We should be using that diversity as a bridge to bring us together rather than segregating. And that works in different ways. You know, in your space, do what you can. As I said before, who are we not listening to? Okay, I'm doing this. Who is going to be most impacted by? What's the impact on that people that we didn't speak about? What's going to happen to those that we didn't even invite to the table? Actually, do we need a table? Let's break the table. You know what I mean? Let's open the door.
I'm in.
You know what I mean? So I think that's
I'll bring my sledgehammer. You want a broken table? Let's do it. Yeah. And for you, you know, what would, if we're going to have less of one thing, what do we need more of?
Well, I mean, you'd like to break the table. Can I put in a request to smash the patriarchy?
Oh, yeah, let's
That's
do
what I'd
that.
like us to do. And I think that we just need to create more spaces for women to occupy. And someone said to me a while ago, they said, there's enough room for us. And I think there's something about, we need to see more women. We need to hear more women. We need to help women feel okay to occupy some of that space. And I love that little meme, God grant me the confidence of a mediocre white male. And I
I've not seen that, but please WhatsApp it to me.
I will do. Because I meet so many phenomenal women, so many, yet they don't have that belief in themselves. Yeah. And I do meet a few mediocre white men that have a lot of belief. Yeah. And I think actually we need to see a bit more of these phenomenal women. We need to be creating space for them to be coming up through. And
we need to nurture them.
We do. And yeah, that's what I'd like to see more of.
Well, I guess in a way that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is it in action.
But, you know, we're only doing this because people like you have sort of steered us in the direction of saying that this is the kind of thing that we need. I mean, years ago, I heard that phrase, you know, if you can see it, you can be it.
For sure.
And I kind of thought about all the things that I can see, and I thought, I don't really want to be those because they're all blokes. But now, you know, you guys are the inspirational role models because people are seeing you and they think that they can be you. Can I ask you, there's always a pivotal moment, isn't there, in people's lives when they're drawn to this kind of thing and they're drawn to campaigning. I know that. We all know that. What was your sliding doors moment?
Was the reverse mentoring project. It was a massive turning point in my life.
What happened?
When there was a project in Devon County Council about the reverse mentoring, which is when people with lived experience mentor senior leaders. So it's a kind of, that's why it reverse the power dynamics.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
You know, they are senior leaders, but you got the power because you have the knowledge and the experience. So it's you telling them what to do rather than the other way around. Yeah. So they asked for volunteers. I put my name up and I was paired with the chief executive. And
I'd love to have seen that, Anna. Who was it?
Phil Norrie.
Maybe he'll want to come in and tell us all about it at some point. In the meantime, you tell us.
So at that same time, because again, you know, when you do these things, like when you do your job, supporting women and girls, there's a moment that you definitely look in. Mm-hmm. And I felt like, hold on a minute, I'm all here. Yeah, you know, do this, do that, read that. But then when it happened to me, I didn't challenge.
Okay.
So that brought to the surface certain experience that I let it pass.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, no, I need to be congruent. I need to be aligned with my principles and my beliefs. Then I took to another level. I entered a route of challenge formally. The discrimination, the racism, my experience. At the same time, mentoring him, and then I felt better. That lack of alignment between me saying one thing, but when it came to myself, I accepted what I'm advocating for. I'm like, no, I need to join. I need to align those honors. I need to align those thoughts and actions. And I did it. It was obviously exhausting, emotionally charged. But he did it. So the reverse mentoring, the mentor of it, the person who brought this to the organization, Joe Hooper, I always said that I can never thank you enough because that rescued me, rescued who I am, rescued who I want to be. So that was the sliding door moment.
Sliding door moment. And for you, Hannah, what?
I don't know. I feel like I've always been on a bit of a mission.
Yeah.
I remember.
Has this crept up on you? Are you trying to tell me that?
Well, I remember I discovered feminism when I was doing my A-levels, and I discovered Marxist feminism. And I remember declaring myself Marxist feminist. I read about the origins of marriage. And it was just like a light bulb. I was like, oh my goodness. And I remember saying to people, did you know that marriage is quite a sexist thing?
Yeah.
And so I remember just starting to read about these things. Yeah. But then you live your life as a woman and you start to experience these things, don't you? And that, a bit like you're saying, when those sort of things start to come together, you have children and then you experience what it is to sort of lose your place in the workforce.
Oh, my.
And then try and get back into the workplace. And then you have to
like you never do. Like you never do.
And you know what? And I remember reading about the domestic labour and how women with careers and in the workplace are still doing, X number of hours of housework. And then you sit in your own life and, you see all of these things. And you just, I think it's, for me, it's this lifelong journey of just seeing the injustice, I suppose, and where it feels... where I struggle with it so much.
The unfairness, isn't
the
it?
unfairness. But also I see, and I said it just now, so many phenomenal women. I just meet so many. And I rage at what they've experienced at the hands of men. And some of them that will forever live their lives in the legacy of male violence and harm and abuse. And I just think something has to change. Something has to.
In that, if you're not careful, you absolutely know more than me, can be generational.
Yeah.
Isn't it? If it's not addressed in that with those women, that is very likely to that behavior witnessed by children, then so on and so forth. So it's
what really disturbs and distresses me, Anna, is I meet so many women that never had childhood, in terms of their childhood was full of fear, abuse and harm. And then when they go on to have children, they aren't able to keep their children because of what's happened in their childhood. And that for me just seems so cruel. And I've loved being a mother most of the time, but I meet women and the sole reason they aren't able to be mothers is because of what happened to them in childhood, usually at the hands of men. And I just, the injustice, the unfairness of that, I think.
Cruel legacy, isn't it?
It is. It really is. It
is a cruel legacy. But as you say, it's generational. And then, so I mean, we can get more technical, but then you suddenly get into the perpetrator-victim scenario, don't you? And the rolling. What would you like to see done? If you had infinite money, and infinite magic wands, how do you think the best way of addressing this? Because there's a paradox here, isn't there? That we have invisible women, while simultaneously we have visible women. Yeah. And it's not fitting, and it's not doing anyone any favours at all.
So the first thing I would do, Alexis, is I would see an end to the porn industry. Yeah. That would be gone. I think that would be a good start. I think that is where our sort of next generation of young people being raised on pornography is a bad thing for society. So I'd certainly get rid of that and create space for women to shine.
Anna, magic wand.
Schools.
Schools.
in schools.
Is this the dream?
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
In schools should be more to decolonize the curriculum,
Mm-hmm.
to understand the world is much more diverse. There is a particular focus on how can I say, turn certain cruelties in humanity into a positive light. I can say many things here. Empire. You know what I mean? There are plenty of examples where you just look from one angle, and usually it's the angle of the perpetrator, rather than understanding what that meant to those who were exploited, those who were kidnapped from their countries to serve those who had the power at the time. So I think that's one thing, because that to bring the change in language, will bring the change in what we are teaching our kids, how we address the situation, is going to normalize the conversation, the challenges. I think kids, I truly believe nobody's born in that way.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I'd agree.
So they learn that. So let's unlearn that by being more critical in the way we educate our children. Because at this moment in time, because we don't have a robust, critical and reflective education, what we have is like terminologies like, say, for example, black humor. You know what I mean? There's this sort of, there's a perpetuation of that association of the black word being associated with what is negative, with what is inferior, with what is not good enough.
I'm really conscious that Hannah's going to have to leave in about 4 minutes. Is that correct?
Thereabouts.
All right. So what I'd like to do is I would want to run through some quick fire questions at the end. I also would like to invite both of you back when we do this, and we'll have some longer conversations next time we have time together. But because you've got to go, what I'd like to do is just quickly whiz through 3 things I want to ask you.
Yeah.
If you had a book to give to everybody, what would it be?
One of my classics would be Germaine Greer, Female Eunuch.
Yeah, got it.
That's one of the first ones that I read.
Should be compulsory.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I
it
think
should be
so.
compulsory.
So I'd certainly have that as a start of a 10.
Yeah.
But for us ladies of the sort of maturing middle ages, Hags by...
Oh, I haven't read it yet.
Read it. I was listening to the audiobook when I did the Plymouth Half Marathon.
Were you?
Any photos of me that have sort of just
Winning.
powered me through. It was fantastic. It's the demonisation of middle-aged women. Brilliant.
Lovely. Thank you very much. I've read one. I'll read the other. Yeah.
Too.
Anna, book.
Well, I'm from Brazil, so I would say in here, I'm not very good. My memory is not great, but I'm no longer talking to white people about race.
Oh,
yes.
I forgot her name. I'm so sorry, but
don't
it's
know,
quite
but no,
popular.
yeah.
It's very the examples, the author.
Yeah.
She gives on the book is so powerful.
Don't apologise. Do you know you've just said I'm sorry?
I'm sorry for not remembering her name.
Oh, okay.
For not remembering the author's name. You know.
I was thinking that's very unusual for you.
No, for her name. But it's amazing. It's a great book. And in Brazil, I would say Casa Grande Senzala, which talks about the history of what the colonization did to Brazil.
Okay.
Where you have the Portuguese coming, bringing Africans from West Africa to work in the sugarcane plantations, and how that shaped Brazilian society.
Second question. What would you say to 12-year-old Anna? What would the woman say to the girl?
You can do it. You can do it. You always can do it. Believe in yourself, absolutely. That's what, although the 12-year-old was on fire already. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, that's what I would say. That's what I tell my daughter, who is 10.
Yeah, good. Hannah, what would you say to 12-year-old Hannah?
Very similar. Be brave. Do it.
That's awesome. Final thing, because we're going to hit your 12 o'clock deadline. We are. Quickly pick a question out.
It's very exciting. Thank you.
All right. Pick a question again. And you can... we're just on a slightly lighter note. We're finishing this. You can ask that to either Anna or me.
Oh, Anna, what's your guilty pleasure?
Oh dear. Sitcoms.
Oh, which
All of
one?
them.
Oh, really?
Oh my God, yeah, all
What's
of
your
them.
favourite?
Friends.
Oh, good.
Sex in the City, bring it on. The movie,
Yeah.
the series, you
Yeah.
know. I need to be able to switch off and see something that doesn't get me to think too much. I need to calm down, you know what I mean? So I like that. Those are my good pleasures. Hannah, if you could send a message out to the entire world, what would it be?
Oh,
Oh, flipping heck.
go on. Go for it.
Oh, just one message to the entire world. I mean, at the moment, because this is something that I'm really focused on, but it would be talk to your young people about pornography.
Mm.
It would be that.
Mm.
Which isn't sort of inspiring or uplifting, but I think really important.
I don't know. I think it sounds as
Necessary.
if it's going to be our next big project, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I think so.
Yeah. 12 o'clock. You got a meeting.
Yeah.
I'd like to say thank you both very much for coming in. Thank you for being our winners. You are absolute champions of combating violence against women and girls and diversity and equality. And you are the role models for the next generation coming through. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to see more of you, I'm sure.
Fantastic.
Let's go.
Thanks.
If you want to find out more about the West Country Women Awards or nominate someone for next year's ceremony, visit westcountrywomenawards.co.uk. The West Country Women Podcast was presented by Alexis Bowater. Copyright West Country Women Awards CIC. Produced and supported by Fresh Air Studios.